When you talk about the slave trade, there's I can tell you from Latin America, you could pay one price for a zombo. Zombo is a born in Africa, okay, cheaper, not acculturated. Or you could pay another a price for what they just called a negro, just a plain black. A negro was an African brought from Africa, typically brought to Havana, one part of the Caribbean, acculturated for about a year, sometimes taught a skill and resold for a higher price. Slaves were many times sold several different times. So if you wanted a slave, you had a choice. Do I want, the cheap version that I got to break in, teach English, teach Spanish, teach Portuguese, or do I want one that's seasoned? So Africans are picking up different things depending on if they're coming directly or if they're going. Now, Carolina is a prime example. Carolina was first settled, the Barbados. The Barbadians, if you look at the first one, were whites. The story, and Charles II came back into power. Those who supported Charles II while Oliver Cromwell was in power, he gives them rewards by offering them these land grants in the Carolinas, okay? And many of these people are connected to Barbadian planters. So the whites that settle the Carolinas come from Barbados. And when they come, they bring their slaves from Barbados to the Carolinas. So it depends on, the region where you're talking about. First of all, that if you still live in an area where you're doing manual labor, you're walking everywhere, and you're eating food that's not coming from supermarkets, been processed with all kinds of stuff, all those things, you're eating a lot more roughage, less processed flour, processed sugar. All those things are just healthier for you. It's amazing to me looking at documents of enslaved women selling food in the ports of Bahia, ports of Rio, and New Orleans, like the same stuff, same hairstyle, some of the same dishes, some of the same desserts, some of the basic same meals. It was amazing to me. It's a lot of commonalities. The African survivals in Louisiana and Brazil, the sugar producing regions of Brazil, are much stronger than many other parts of, say, like the Chesapeake region of the United States. So again, but now here you go to Guatemala, where you had slavery in Guatemala, and the coastal regions where you had hot climate and sugar producing, a lot more African influences. Prime example, I'm in Guadalajara, Mexico. Go out to catch the bus, and on the corner you have the church, and you have vendors selling food right near the church because there's so much traffic there. What are they selling? They're selling candied sweet potatoes. But they're not candied with brown sugar. They're candied with honey. But it's the same thing my grandmother did. So again, I'm arguing African influences. There's a scholar named Ivan Van Sertima wrote a book called They Came Before Columbus, where he shows a natural current that goes from Africa to the Americas. He shows you archaeological, like statues and masks and things like that there was a lot of influence between Africans even before 1492. So I would say, depending on where you are in Latin America, Cartagena, one of the principal ports of importation for slaves in South America, is another place, real strong region. So it depends on what we're talking about. Research. I did a lot of research on Puerto Ricans that then migrated to New York, because I have a whole section of the book called The Declining Influence of Soul Food. And I show that in the housing projects of the Bronx, Harlem, Spanish Harlem, how these are regions where blacks interacted so much. And as I mentioned, one of the first documents that led me to my third book project on Black-Latino relations are these restaurants in the Depression era in East Harlem and Harlem, where Black Indians and Puerto Ricans, Cubans, are all going to the same restaurant.